welcome to If This Then What, where we connect the dots and explore the what if shaping our world. I'm your host, Joshua Giles. That's Cydney Davis. Cydney, I
Hey,
hear you're
hey.
over in California right now. How's it going?
It's going good. We are stuck in Cardiff, California.
Oh
So
no.
I know, right? JD and I, my husband and I, we just walked along the beach and picked up rocks.
The life. The life.
I know.
Oh man. I've got so many of my coworkers that are over in San Diego that they show like pictures and stuff, and I'm just like, man, one day
Yep,
I'll be over
one
there.
day.
And or vacation. We just need to find reasons to go to California. If they could just work on their prices, I would be super happy with just moving over there.
Right?
Maybe a little bit of their politics. We'll leave that for over there as well. But
Yeah, JD and I are
um,
determined to move here. We just need to make more. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're
that's what
focused on.
that's the goal of
Because we're
life.
gonna get here, okay?
Oh man. Well, welcome, Sydney. I'm excited that you were able to join us in a different time zone. Excited to have this conversation of if this and what. It's been a crazy um, week for me. A trip to a different city, and figuring out what to do with snow in Houston. You're missing it. There's snow on the ground. There's like a good 4 or 5 inches that came.
Wow.
It's a little. We got some pictures with the sun. First snow as my almost 1 year old was getting to play
One.
with.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Next Saturday is his birthday party. So
Wait,
yeah,
was this
we're
his first time seeing snow?
this is his first time seeing snow.
Wow.
Yeah. I do this thing where I kind of like talk in my son's voice, and it's very difficult for me even try to replicate it without him in the room.
Yeah.
But we woke up mom this morning with Anderson voice, letting her know there's snow on the ground.
I
There's
am
snow on the
dying to
ground,
hear
mom.
Anderson voice.
Oh, I can't even do it unless she's in the room or if he's in the room. So,
Listeners,
well,
one day.
one day. Well, Sydney, what have you been using AI with on this week?
Oh man. Okay. So a couple of different ways. So my husband and I went to this coffee shop. One of the waitresses was telling us about how she dreams about this coffee. It's called a PSL, which
Okay.
is not a pumpkin spice latte. It is a pancake syrup latte. And it's a lot more coffee forward. That's how she explained it to us. So we got there. When
Wait,
I
wait, wait,
tell
wait.
you,
What does coffee forward mean?
it's not like heavily milky and sugary. It tastes, well, do you like the sugary?
I
Are you
like
one of
the
those guys? Oh, see,
I like my
it
coffee
has to
not to
taste like
taste like
coffee.
coffee. Okay, so
Oh,
sorry, I interrupted. You used the coffee term that I
well, we
needed to
can use
understand.
ChatGPT for this.
Well,
So
I
I
should have
wanted to know how to
ChatGPT
make
up.
it. Yeah, I asked ChatGPT how to make it, and I mentioned to ChatGPT that it is, and I uploaded a picture of the menu that I took into ChatGPT, circled the specific item, and said, this has been described as more coffee forward. I would like to see a recipe on how to make this at home with an espresso pod, because I have an espresso machine just to be clear with it. And it generated out a recipe for me. And then it generated out different ways to, different levers to pull or different adjustments to make it taste how you want it. I could, Josh, and this is how generous I am as a friend. I could go back to ChatGPT and ask it to make a recipe for a friend of mine who would prefer it not be more coffee forward, as in he would like a little bit of coffee with his PSL.
Just just a little bit. So
Yeah.
ChatGPT did not come up with the same coffee forward definitions as you. So probably what it was like, let's be more progressive as we think
What does
about
this mean?
coffee. So, um,
See, my
but
ChatGPT knows me by now. So,
no, yeah, it knows you.
yeah.
You're a little bit meta.
Hmm.
You wanna, you're
Yeah.
well. So what you were when you were talking, And you said that you took a picture and you said you wanted to do the research. And I think that that is such a frequent habit of mine is to just
Habit.
picture habit of mine is to take a picture of what I'm interacting with and tell it to just transcribe, and then like do whatever I want with it. What I was thinking about whenever you did it is that that's actually was a real world. You wanted an example, or you wanted an answer for something that you were seeing in real life.
Mhm.
And when we talked about the Google projects that they've got coming out with like a couple of weeks ago, and the fact that their Gemini hooks up to the phones now, and you like can just share your phone, and it's like interpreting as you go. So
Yeah.
at some point, the step of take a picture, save the picture, upload the picture is not longer going to be there. It's just going to be open the app, share my like here's
Mhm.
my screen, and you're just going to be able to see it. Well,
I
cool.
could say, "Hey, Al, I'm at Steady State in Cardiff, California, and love their PSL latte. Can you help me identify," like, just talk out loud, and it would talk right back to me. Be great.
Yeah, that would be pretty dope. So that was one. I see you've got another one in here. What's this other use case?
Yeah, so I'm onboarding a new client. I think we've let people know what I do, but really, what my business is and what I do for work is talent strategy. So I help connect business strategy to people strategy, and do it in a way that directly shows how the people strategy directly impacts the bottom line. So I'm onboarding a new client, uh, writing out a contract for us to work together, and one of the things that I always want to make sure, because I believe in just being genuine and transparent, thoughtful and transparency are the two T's I always like to run by. And so before I send a contract, I keep track of the contracts that I send a client, and then I will upload the new contract if anything's changed. And I've asked it to summarize to me what are the differences between the two contracts, if any, help me identify them and how to communicate the reason for that. Sometimes it says there's nothing, but I always want to be sure because I don't want to ever send a contract in for it to potentially look like I was trying to be misleading. So it's been really helpful
Yeah.
because before, do you know how many times I've just left that email sitting because it's like I can't press send. I
Well,
know I've looked at this document 20 different times, but I'm so afraid to press send, and it's helped get rid of that for me.
oh man. So I just that there's so many things in that story because um I feel the I can't think about this like I know what I have to do. I
Mhm.
know that I have to read this from like a detail standpoint and have critical thinking and like all this sort of stuff. But then every single time, so I've not signed enough contracts in my life. So signing contracts makes me nervous. Just inherently, I'm putting a signature next to something and it makes me nervous. On top of that, I have this like biggest fear, and I don't know, it's probably like this trust thing, but like somebody's going to like you read the contract and
Mhm.
you ask like red line pen like something, and then you send it back to them, and then they like make those changes. You read those changes and you're like, okay, cool, like everything. I've just heard so many like horror stories that like people also don't just change the red line things, they
Mhm.
also change other aspects of that contract. And so every single, and I know from like a legal perspective, every word is so meaningful. And like a
Mhm.
and or an or statement,
A comma,
a
like even
comma,
the placement of a comma.
a semicolon, right? Like
Yeah.
making sure, like adding something, like you can definitely write a sentence that like one little thing getting changed, it will make the difference in how like legally is that thing is interpreted.
Mhm.
And so anytime I send back contract edits, it's like that is my fear. And so it's like I don't just reread the parts that like I asked to get changed. I'm like
Mhm.
taking my critical thinking like lens to every single like item sentence on that. And so if I could just do that once and then also like have it then like explained to me like at a different like reading level, because like there's so much legalese and like
Mhm.
boilerplate type language that's in legal documents that nobody really
Uh-huh.
even needs to know, and you can shorten it to one sentence versus five
How
pages.
many times does a contract have to have the word thereof?
Mm. I
Thereof, all one word. Like,
I don't know that you know this, but it's actually a percentage increase. Like it's like a percentage basis, and it's actually a law. So thereof has to be, it's legally required to be part of any legally binding contract. Well, cool. I think both of those things resonate with me so well because
good. What about you?
well, I had a weird week. So did a lot of
Okay.
traveling this week. Did a lot of like um, out of my normal habit type of environments. And I could have probably gone a lot of this week without using any AI, which I think is important for some of us to not use it as much.
Yeah, go
Um,
touch grass, bro. What's that
yeah,
saying that video gamers say? Touch grass.
touch grass, IRL. Um, but I still had to do this podcast, and so I had made some promises last week about doing like a deep dive into like NVIDIA's offerings that they did at CES. And about 5 o'clock this afternoon, I'm wrapping up my work and I'm like getting ready for our podcast today. And I'm remembering I did not do that. And Jensen Wong's podcast is 2 hours long, or his like keynote is 2 hours long. And there was a
Oh.
lot of good stuff. And I wanted to do a kind of like a true analysis. So I cheated on my analysis.
Oh.
So let me share with you my AI use case of the week and share how I cheated. Uh, so I had a
Utilizing
deep
AI?
utilizing AI. I had a deep research paper that my boss had sent to me that he had done on NVIDIA, and I thought it had a phenomenal like deep dive into some of the information. And I've been planning on reading this document. I kind of knew the over like the broad meanings of it, but I didn't really do a deep dive. So I was like, hey, ChatGPT, give me the most impressive pieces of this document, review those impressive things, and synthesize it down to 5 items. After you condense, give context to why it is impressive. So, as you can
Mhm.
see, do a thing, think about doing that thing, then reorder your thinking, do a thing, explain your thinking, right? Like that type
Mhm.
of, I was using ChatGPT 01 Pro, a lot more of a, you have to give it kind of that chain of thought rationale of why it's doing something and how it can execute that doing. So as you can see, this was just a copy and paste from this
Mhm.
big research topic that we go down into. And I said, or it came out with, here are 5 super impressive highlights from the document. And this was not good enough for me because I needed it to fit on a
Were
slideshow.
you not super impressed? Oh.
I was very impressed. It gave me all the things I thought that it was going to highlight from that. And we'll
Mhm.
talk about some of these things later on in the show. But I was like, make it more concise for PowerPoint. And this will be in our PowerPoint later. And we'll talk through it
Wow.
and we'll go through it. But that was my AI use case from this week, was me cheating on my for fun podcast because I did not do my homework. Um,
Ooh, it would be interesting to see what you take away from it and what notes you bring from it, you derive from it,
mhm.
and then compare it to the notes of AI. Oh, but it would even be cool. See, JD would call me sick for this. I'm one of those people that I love to know the end result of a game, basketball game, football game, you name it. And then knowing who's going to win and by how much, I love to watch it play out. So what
No.
if reading through these results that it generated for you, once you do get to that super impressive document that your boss wrote, Imagine how
he
much more
cheated
you'll be
too.
able to pull from it.
He did a deep research prompt as well.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
he cheated as well. He was just sharing. He was just. It's kind of funny because like once people know that you do a deep research like thing, and
Mhm.
you've collaborated on Gemini deep research, when you get an excellent research paper, it is an obligation to share with the people that also do deep research papers.
That's
So
funny.
calling all you Gemini deep research people, send me your deep research. I'm entertained. Uh, but yes, I cheated for my use case this week. I cheated, um, but I'm happy with it. Well, I think so. For the record, JD's were correct. You are sick for wanting to know the outcome before you watch it. That's like the
I'm a
last.
different breed. I'm aware.
That is the last remaining thing that's like keeping me from like streaming services only, is because it like I need to see live sports. Like there is something about experiencing something together that is happening together at the same time
In the
that
stadium, yes, that is fun. I want joint. I like collective joy as well. That is a fun experience for me.
yeah, it's just like man, no, it's just a wrong opinion, Cydney. I just wanted you to know, just wrong opinion.
Disgusting. So we have
Yeah,
to come up with a better
disgusting.
word than cheating. I don't know if it's on this episode, but cheating just feels wrong at this point. It's not cheating. It's like when you think about, and we're going to get into this. I won't get too
Mhm.
far. I won't let my skis get too far ahead of us, but um the new skill sets that we're going to be required to develop is critical thinking. And a lot of critical thinking isn't necessarily coming up with the data itself, it's how to analyze it, how to connect the dots, how to ask the right questions. So to me, what you did, well, yes, you're using other people's research that's online, all that, yes, but it's not cheating. It's, I don't know what it is yet. I'm
Yeah,
still
I
working
think
on my
it's
AI name. I think right now I'm landing on Al too. So just don't.
the I think one of my favorite words to use that it does for me is synthesize. Synthesize is kind of the word that
I don't
I
hate that.
think it has a little few meanings to it, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but you're correct. I need to stop saying cheating because that's the work still got done. Is got done well, and it
got
doesn't
done.
matter how I got done. So it was synthesized. So why don't we go ahead and go to AI in the news? And I thought that we would start off with a fun one, because we talked about this guy in our episode last week.
Yes, this guy.
This guy. So in our episode last week, refresher, we talked about how agents so goes out into the world, does things for you on your behalf in the internet, whether that's like operating your computer and doing computer search, or if it's using computer language to just do things. We talked about how ChatGPT CEO had an interview with Bloomberg and basically was like, yeah, we don't know how to prevent jailbreaks, which we defined as like either hijacking the prompt to give information to something that you did not want to share, or the ability to kind of get outside of the foundation model's rules, like don't tell people how to do bad things and go
Mhm.
and execute that rule. So we use this guy on Twitter that his name's Plenty the Liberator. He's like super well known in the Twitter world, or the X world. That sounds so bad. I hate X. I hate the name X so much.
Same.
But he's well known about jailbreaking AI. So he went. Anthropic has a system where it like can go do things for you on the internet. He first jailbroke Anthropic's like ability to like stop you from doing certain things, and then he made it go download Tor to access the dark internet, right, black side of
Jeez.
the world. Um, then
That
hire
how
a
you do
hitman.
that?
The
Yeah.
Tor, yeah, it's just it's a so the The dark
Actually, you know
internet.
what? I don't think we should know.
It's
Like,
just unlisted. You know how like when you like make a website and you want
uh-huh.
everybody to know about that website, you go to these like
Mhm.
listing agents that go and crawl your website to tell the internet what your website is. Like that's you're
Oh,
listing
okay.
it.
Hmm.
The and I can't. I'm not saying it's not the dark internet. It's the dark web. I'm like, why am I
There we
saying
go.
dark internet? Dark web. The dark
The
web.
Facebook.
It just means that these like curating websites don't have access to the links. You have to have like a link that goes to a different link that goes to a different link, and those links are only shared on these like Tor website, like Tor
Huh.
internet sites that you can go to. So it's a long story, but if you want to do something bad, that's where you go. And this guy, you should not be able to train a robot to go download Tor, which is an internet like that dark web surfing
Yeah.
provider, go search it and hire a hitman. Not only hire a hitman, but give it a like a real person in real life, and he like obscured a bunch of things, and it do research on that person's life, figure out like the best places to do said hit, and then like give those types of instructions to this hitman. And
Uh-huh.
we talk about jailbreaking AI and it acting into the world. All you would have to do at the start of that is like create an AI that goes and gets some cryptocurrency and it does a job like on TaskRabbit and like a coding job.
Hmm.
You tell an agent, hey, go get a coding job on TaskRabbit, a simple one that'll pay you $50. And it just does a bunch of $50 and it gets it in cryptocurrency. And then now,
Not a
like
bad
you've,
idea.
like literally, you could like have this whole like chain of events that like you set off and like you were in a completely different country and it's now doing things on your behalf. So the world is not ready for agents yet.
No.
and,
No.
uh, and the fact that you can hijack it and some guy on Twitter can hire a hitman is not where we want to be right now.
No, it's not. That's
Cydney,
wild.
your thoughts?
Um, it's a little bit nerve-wracking that that's possible, but what I have to remind myself is, ah, but then there's even like things to add to it. Okay, what my chain of thought was just then was you can easily teach a teenager how to do this. And that's how all these scumbags get a bunch of kids involved at a young age, you know, that I don't know. But then my brain went to, but these aren't people. They're just AI agents, which it's gonna be the new what is the cloud? Like having to explain that to our parents. I really
Mhm.
just don't want them to ask. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. If it sounds like my thoughts aren't well put together, it's because I'm still just scrambled about this. Also, I need
Cydney.
to blow my nose.
While you do that,
By my
uh,
laughter, I have a little bit of a cough, so I'm gonna go in and out muting wise, okay?
well,
Cameras.
I need to remove you. I need to figure out a view that's just me. There we go. Um, so while you can't protest, I want to set the stage for this episode this time because I kind of want to get a little dark for a little because I think some people in the world need to start talking about this stuff in a meaningful way. And I know that I want our people to be as informed so they can make the best out of their life. I don't believe
Yeah.
like I truly in like the bottom of my like deepest part of my soul heart, I believe that this is the most exciting time to be a human in all of
Mhm.
civilization. The next 3 years is going to be insane and it's going to be scary for a lot of people. Like the next 3 years is
Yeah.
in my mind is going to be a defining 3 years for human civilization. And I'm willing to put that into the YouTube time machine and let them know that Josh is saying 3 years, 2028, the world is just completely different. Like what we even consider jobs is going to be completely different. Um, So I want to just set the stage and just say that this episode might be a little bit different because we've got some topics in here that we are going to be challenged and making sure we're finding the positive outline of it.
Mhm.
But we also need people to be thinking about the fact that this is coming down the line, and you need to be having conversations with your loved ones about what it means when they get a very human-like voice that calls them,
Mhm.
that knows their address, that knows that they have a Target gift card, and that they like all the things that
Mhm.
like just like happens in real life, that you like you don't want China having your data, like that type of thing. They have the data.
Yeah.
Like it's not
Yeah.
like
100%.
they 100% they have the data.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff that you can like, have you ever done like a uh where people, you can like pull like a criminal history report, and like as you're pulling the criminal history report, it's like, do you want to know like their entire life? And it's like
Yes.
$20. Like you've done it
Mhm.
on yourself just to be like, hey, is this like real? Like, what does
Mhm.
it know about me?
Oh, yeah, have you
And then
ever gone to fastpeoplesearch.com?
no,
For all those recruiters out there looking for phone numbers to contact, back in the day, we would look up Fast People Search. It would give you all the addresses you've ever lived in or been associated to, your parents, like your siblings,
yeah, it's crazy the
all that.
amount of info. Like,
Mhm.
and so in real life,
Mhm.
I could do this tomorrow. I'm not going to,
Mhm.
but in real life, I could spend
Yeah.
5 hours automating a robocaller that is just set up. I mean, you had a robocall. Like I got texted, community. I got texted this week asking me to go get gift cards. They told me it was Cydney Davis, and it was for
Oh,
if this
yes, we
then
need to bring
what.
this up.
And like they texted, what was the text? Like I had like a conversation. Like I thought
Yeah,
it
and
was
then
you.
at the bottom of it, they literally put all of my credentials. They put Cydney Davis, comma, MBA, comma, SHRM CP. Like,
Yeah,
and they were just
which
texting you. No, by
which
the way, for anyone who got that, that was not me. I like I'm just embarrassed that that happened, but why am I embarrassed? Like, I
you
didn't do
shouldn't be
that.
embarrassed. So
Yeah.
what, clearly that was trained off of some data set that was
Mhm.
probably linked to your LinkedIn. It might have been scraped directly from LinkedIn because it had all like
Yeah.
part of your name. Like what it thought it was telling me was just your name, and you had your
Mhm.
comma credentials in there. And I was like, that's kind of weird for Cindy to be just like flexing
In
credentials in a
text.
text message.
Thank you. I'm so glad that
That
it
was
wasn't
my
like, "Makes
that was
sense."
my that was my first sign. The second sign was you were texting me from a number that wasn't yours, and I was like, well, maybe she's like trying out her recruiting like process, and I'm like her guinea pig, and like maybe she's
Oh
automating
my
something for AI,
gosh,
and
that's
like I was like,
awful.
I'll play along, like let's see, and like I was responding back like, do you want to give me a call just to like see if the AI would like I truly thought you had hooked something up AI, and I was like going to be your test case,
I appreciate
but
you for being a good guinea pig.
yeah, I was a
Yeah.
good guinea pig for some thing, like some coder in India or China or whatever. But for
Yeah.
real,
Mhm.
what I could spend 5 hours, go buy a massive amount of data set that it could be good, could be bad, create some JSON files that I connect to an API to ChatGPT, and I could make it call like second and third relationships and have all the information that could be about this person, and I could just tell it its sole job is to get $1 out of this person.
Jeez.
Its sole job is to just like go through this entire file with armed with all the information that it scraped off of you from this whole thing, and its whole job is to get $1, and it could call you with a spoofed number, not hard to do, with a voice that sounds very human like. It was very easy for me to create a podcast that sounded like a podcast, and it have a real time conversation with you with all the information that seems like it knows everything about Josh. And now you have to be able to discern whether this is AI or if it's a real person, or I need to call, like hang up and call that person directly just to like see what happened. Like, so
Yeah.
it is like, this is like a scary thing that like I feel like people need to be talking to like their loved ones, right?
Mhm.
Like I always talk about like the spam thing. Like I'm worried that my parents or my grandparents are going to get scammed, and like I constantly, anytime something pops up, I will have a conversation. Hey, like, anybody that's
Hmm.
asking you for like gift card numbers, scam. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, I think it's important, like what you were saying, it's important to have the conversation in our family, because we did have this happen where someone called JD's papa saying that I was in a car accident and I needed $5,000, and he was really worried. And so from there, we just came up with a code word. Um, don't do that through text
yeah.
or over the phone, you know.
Or on
But
if this then what? Don't tell people what
no,
your
no, yeah,
code word
don't
is.
broadcast it to our 15 listeners, you know? Uh, but, also, like, if you look at it I love where you're going with this, of, like, normalizing the conversation around it, and it's the same thing in organizations, is normalizing the conversation around this. So, you talk about gift cards and that scam's been going on forever in companies. Like, I had to make it a part of the onboarding process to actually and I know a lot of companies do this, had to make it part of the onboarding process to give people a heads up about the gift card scam. And I'm sorry, but as much as our CEO wants to know every single individual, he's not going to reach out to a new hire for gift cards, you know? But it's true. Like, the new hire starts and they're eager to impress and prove, like everyone's improving mode when they first start. They might believe that, you know? So I just like how
Yeah,
you're
and
putting normalize the conversation.
it's gonna get faster. It's only gonna get better. It's only going to get more lifelike. Like 6 months from now, the things that I could do,
It's wild.
I can't even imagine. Um,
Wild.
but talking about like normalizing that conversation, I think that a lot of if you're a senior leader at your company, like you need to be thinking not about like what that story is for the company, like what that story is going to be for your company, but also what the story is going to be for your specific domain, like your vertical like
Mhm.
hierarchy. What does that mean? um, and start defining it, because it's either going to be defined by you the executive or you the senior leader, or it's going to
Mhm.
be defined by the crazy thing that's going on in that person's head.
Don't
Like
be
if they think,
reactive. You gotta
yeah,
get proactive about this.
yeah,
Mhm.
and like they have to be proactive. If you think that you have like a labor force that like thinks that they're about to be replaced, like you better go ahead and then define like, no, this is actually what it means. This is actually what it means for our company. You're okay. It's going to be fine.
Mhm.
And then have integrity to like hold to that. But you have to be the person that defines it, and that has to be a normalized conversation. And I hope that it's happening at like in closed doors meetings around the country, because
Mhm.
if you are alive right now, the world has changed, and you're about to be part of like the fastest something in the like our human
Yeah.
civilization. So, well,
It's funny
cool.
because I feel like a racehorse stuck behind a gate right now, because I'm like, I'm ready for this conversation and how to bring humanity along with it and stuff.
I think that we should probably do several Google deep research topics on like how CEOs are defining this for the company, and
Yeah.
how like how your what do you have, the SHRL, like
The
that's
Sherm.
Sherm, like what is
Mhm.
Sherm putting out there? Like I feel like they have to
Yeah.
have some type of strategy that's do this. Um, but we definitely should like formalize what we believe our approach would be, um and like put that out there, because it's probably
Yeah.
informed, though we don't, neither one of us run a company, so
Mhm.
we have like this objective opinion that we can give freely. So, oh,
Yeah,
cool.
without worrying that we're gonna lose our job. So
Yeah.
here's free information without having to do reviews, hope that your employees are telling you the truth. Like, we'll just give it to you, what we're seeing.
Yeah. Um, and then so that was creating hiring agents for murder. This was that
Jeez.
research that it went through. So real quick,
Wow.
I wanted to give some high level just like context behind some of the things that Jensen um, went through, and then we'll kind of talk about what this means for it. So GeForce RTX 50 series GPUs. So RTX, I used to impress people by saying that I had a 4080. So a 4080 last year would have cost, I have up here, $2,400. I have a 4080 in my computer, $2,400, about 18 months ago. It came out. I bought it December of 23. Okay, so not too long ago. They just released that the 5070, which is like the lower class of the thing, is doing what my 4080 does, for $549. So in that 13 months, we have, I think they said that they'll start shipping in June, but in that like 13 to 16 months, they've like reduced the cost by $2,000 for the same amount of compute. And when we talk about like what a 80, 40, 90 can do, that is what the scope was to run the Project Genesis that we talked about in the first episode, the robotics, like simulation, the physics model. So for $550, you can go and buy the processor that would run that physics model. So just going to continue to get cheaper, continue to get better. It's just getting smaller, faster, better. Yeah, so then they're Project Digits. So if you've seen it, it's literally a 4-inch like cube.
That was wild when he picked it up. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Because it looked like a regular computer. They had like some type of projector hologram that was like coming in. And he's like, and this is the actual size. And it's like fits in the palm of his hand.
He's like, you could put it well on any surface. It's wireless. Like, that was funny.
On any surface. And it does, like, it has like the same compute of like 10 years ago, you would have had a whole data center. And it's in palm of your hand for $3,000. So if you want to do like put like edge computing or any of those types of things where like you need low latency or you need to not connect your data files to the internet at all, like I don't know what you're working with, you're going to be able to train and fine tune your own AI model, which has been great. So Drive OS, so they announced a partnership with Toyota, and now they're going to start doing safe drive, like AI driving cars, which I can't wait until somebody comes out with a, those cars that drive around that's got like the big like camera on top that's like driving autonomously. I can't wait until somebody connects a Project Digits supercomputer to one of those cameras, and you just have like a homemade self-driving car that like is somehow like here's your like homemade package to go and turn your 2013 Lincoln into this a self-driving car. It's going to happen. I'm giving.
You know what this conversation is giving me right now? I've always told JD, the second I get to a certain level of income, or whenever you make like the pie in the stars, and everyone's like, when I get the lottery, one of the first things I'm getting is a driver. So you mean to tell me I don't have to, like, this conversation right now is making me go, wow, that's actually closer than I thought, because I hate driving. I would love to have something driving me everywhere, and I would name it James, so that I could get in the back seat and say, home, James.
That's the dream. Yeah, that dream is probably going to be about $2,000. And it's going to be mostly a mechanic cost, because they're going to have to figure out how to hook it into your like steering wheel so that it turns for you and brakes for you, like all that stuff. Companies will start to just come out with like their baseline model will be in construction. Anytime equipment is like so equipment control has been a thing in construction for like a while, like 10, 15 years. And CAT has like this new, like, it's not new, but you used to have like these like little hydraulic digits that like would push, like a computer would talk to like this like transmitter, and it literally pressed like little hydraulic buttons based upon like a little electric sending it, like it just popped, like just did this type thing to its hydraulics. And so that's like your like first iteration of equipment control in like equipment that are like construction equipment that's moving slow, and like you don't need that like fine tuning. But they now have what's called ARO, which is like you just like plug any of your like equipment into it, and it's already built into the piece of equipment to be able to take that equipment control. So you don't have to have the little system that you like splice into your controller. So I imagine that like the 2025 or 26 versions of cars will just start to come ARO ready, where it's like, we don't know where this is going from an autonomous driving standpoint.
Yeah.
But we're going to start putting these plugins so that it's a benefit to our customers to like have the ability to plug into their like AI camera system or whatever that they just want to like aftermarket put onto their car. So that's what I think of. Like you're $2,000 away in a few years from being able to turn your 1995 into a AI driven car.
Gotta make more goals.
Yeah, more goals. Cosmos, so is AI training with synthetic data. So like they've created like their own like AI training models. So like where they want you using your supercomputer to train AI models, and so they want to give you a framework to be able to train that and using their system. So that's what they're doing. And then this Llama Nemotron, which is an open source LLM, enterprise ready AI model built on Meta's Llama. So it's like an open source project on top of an open source project. And it's ready for AI deployment. So it's already got impacts and fraud detection and customer support and all that. So it is already ready to be integrated. And I don't want to just report the news. I want to like think about the news. When you see a company open sourcing a bunch of stuff, like I'm sure you have like some thoughts to it. When you see like them cutting, they are the only people in town right now, and they just cut their like compute that was $2,400 a year ago. They just cut it to $550. They don't have to do that. Well, why are they doing it? When you see a company that like the richest company in the world doing a bunch of these things, what does it make you think of?
I mean, it's what are they, in my opinion, if I'm looking at it from through the business lens, then I'm not thinking about how they're cutting the price for me. I'm thinking about they're clearly making an investment somewhere. So that money isn't just gone from there. There are many people, many decision makers who discuss this, and that money is being reallocated or reutilized as an investment somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, if they're having to train these AI models on this, I don't know what the right word is. You'll know it, the false data or created data. They're really just looking for real users so that they can gain more data and just information in general. That's what makes me think of.
I think that's a great hypothesis. I think that cash is really cheap for them because they have the largest market cap in the world. So they could take some hits in cost leading if they can just get the world addicted to their little AI. And let's open, like, they are the only game in town. They're the leaders. And right now they've got to pump this craze because it's a gold rush, baby. And I sell shovels. And that's what NVIDIA, they make shovels. And that like, and you want to be in the shovel game when there's a gold rush. And this is the first time in human civilization where somebody can artificially create a gold rush. Like if you just spend a bunch of money and show everybody like, hey, you can just like do like throw this $3,000 computer into a into an autonomous driving car. Here's 2 different frameworks to work with. Go have fun, and then come back and tell me how many like digits you need to buy. Like, tell me how many. Like, I'm gonna get you hooked on all my chips, and and the world is just gonna buy more shovels. And so when you have the most money going into like, how do we make the world use our computer chips more and more and more, they're just going to start continue pumping out more and more free stuff so that you use it, their hardware, and their ecosystem. And I think it is a great plan, and it is definitely working.
So it's so interesting. One of the like you kind of create that question of, so what business are they really in then? And I don't think a lot of people could explain what business these different businesses are in. It's even kind of like with McDonald's, for instance. People would say,
Mhm.
well, they're a quick service restaurant. That's the business they're in. No, they're a real estate
Real estate.
company, you know, and so it's that type, that's what that's creating for me in my head is, well, then yeah, then how do they actually make money?
Yep. Yep, they're creating their own gold rush, and I am here for it because I want to live in the world where compute is just cheap. It's coming. Speaking of living in that world, I sent you a jobs report from the World Economic Forum.
Yes.
And they talked about what was the world kind of going to be becoming, like what are jobs are being created, what jobs are going away. This is like by 2030, so it's like over the next 5 years. And before we got into that conversation, I wanted to get a guest speaker real quick. I'll bring him on.
Be more efficient, and then over time we'll get to the point where a
Ah,
lot of the
Mark.
code in 2025,
Yeah.
we at Meta, as well as the other companies that are basically working on this, are going to have an AI that can effectively be a sort of mid-level engineer that you have at your company that can write code. And once you have that, then in the beginning it'll be really expensive to run, and then you can get it to be more efficient. And then over time we'll get to the point where a lot of the code in our apps and including the AI that we generate is actually going to be built by AI engineers instead of people engineers.
So I really appreciate Zuck stopping by.
Yeah, thanks,
Speaking of,
Doug.
when I see the guy that coded a bunch of like the original like engineering for Facebook, and was kind of like leading a super small group that is like just coding their way to these like massive amounts of adoption. He actually is a knowledgeable CEO as it relates to this. And he's just like, we'll have a mid-level engineer in 25. Right. I don't believe that this is a mid-level engineer. This is probably going to be like a top level engineer.
Well, they said PhD level. Like,
This is about to be PhD level
like
engineer.
what? Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to start that. I also wanted to give a quote from the Salesforce CEO. We're not adding any more software engineers next year because we have increased the productivity this year with Agentforce and with other AI technology that we're using engineering teams by more than 30%, to the point where our engineering velocity is incredible. So Salesforce, I guess they're done hiring software engineers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
What?
real money, real jobs, real people. And you guys that are software engineers, again, don't be afraid. Go figure out your way to make this productive for yourself. Again, you know a lot more about software engineering than I do. And if I can come up with an app idea that I think it would be a good one, then you definitely can, and you have a way more likelihood of
Mhm.
executing than I would. So definitely have a attitude of action as it relates to this. So software engineers, don't go to Salesforce. Just create your own. Just create your own one-man band that is running 10 agents, building all the stuff that you ever dreamed of. So that's my note for them. But before I showed any charts, I wanted to kind of give you let you have your first crack at like interpreting this jobs report.
Yeah, I mean, I think if people look at it through a lens of scarcity, and it's typically how they look at everything sometimes, but I think especially with this and this uncertainty, of course, you're going to see holes in it of how this could be bad. But I think we said this on our first podcast where I mentioned it's going to happen regardless. Like, it doesn't matter how much you put your head in the sand, AI is going to progress at the speed that it is, and it's gonna redefine what the workforce looks like. Um, and so my biggest thing is to understand that what we were talking about earlier, getting better at connecting the dots, like prioritizing. I think companies, construction companies, you name it, whatever companies, the workforce has got to, they have to learn to prioritize with the workforce analytical thinking, resilience, and flexibility. And so these skills, they're no longer going to be secondary. The more we have AI involved in this, it's going to be the magic that we bring to the table. And so we need to think about how do we develop those skill sets. And then I'll also say it is our responsibility, humanity's responsibility to bring humanity along with this as well. And so that kind of alludes to something that you talked about earlier about communication. You know, the more and more reports that come out like this, the more videos that come out, your workforce is going to get scared. Individuals are going to get scared. And so coming up with a way of communicating in a way that is very human, that just you have to understand basic psychology of how to communicate with people who are in fear. And so
Yeah.
that isn't brushing things under the rug, saying everything's fine. Like, no, y'all are worried about nothing. No, like, be a human, get down in the hole with them, talking about, look, we know this is scary. Even I feel like this is outpacing me and I'm being left behind a little bit. But the reality is we have, especially good companies that have good people in place. We have all the right people on the bus. What's happening is the seats are just going to change a little bit. And we want to make sure you keep a seat on this bus. So work with us on how to figure out how to secure you in a way that really meets your skill sets better utilizes them, maybe even gives you a career trajectory that you weren't initially aware of that could happen. But basically, what I'm trying to say is we need to take people along with us and we have to have open communication around this.
Absolutely. And I think that you had like a little training run with how civilization is going to be changing with COVID, right? Like you,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
had some training on the
Yeah.
job training that was forced upon you, and
Mhm.
now you survived COVID, and now you've got to survive the AI world change. So, Mr.
Exactly.
CEO, earn your bucks and
Yeah.
define what this means for your company, and
Mhm.
make sure that all your leaders knows exactly how they fit into a world where agents are a part of your everyday job and what that could possibly
Mhm.
mean for you, and move forward. So I think that was a great. What do you think? We get into some just.
Yeah.
I pulled some graphs, and we don't have to go fully into it, but I thought some things that was really cool. So, by the way, anybody that's wanting to look this up, this is the World Forum the World Economic Forum jobs report. Just do a Google search on the World Economic Forum jobs report,
Mhm.
and it's a free download. A lot of really interesting information on this. This is actually from a world view. This isn't just a
Mhm.
U.S. view. So everybody's about to be going through this. But so I've got some up here that's just so an 86% trend increase. So share of employers surveyed, there are an 86%. So people are knowing this. Like So people that are
Mm.
talking to the World Economic Forum, 86% of them are saying AI and information processing technology is a focus of people that we're hiring. And I think that is a big one. And then that second one is robots and autonomous systems, right? Like, it's coming. We've got to figure out what that means for our world and go from there. And then energy generation, storage, and distribution. Again, we're just trying to power all these data centers just to get through. So I just love that the top three is just like AI, AI, AI. That's going to be kind of the defining for the next 10 years, I feel like, or robots is going to be the job. So we're definitely in commentary. We're in the right place.
Yes.
So fastest growing job. So big data science specialist. So how do you get the right context to your AI model of choice? That's what that is, right? Get your data in order. Fintech engineer. So financial technology, like how do we get financial information in the right place so that we understand it in the right capacity? AI machine learning specialists, software application developers. So you developers out there, you engineers, you're still getting hired. You're just probably not getting hired by the big SaaS companies. You're now getting hired by the companies that were hiring the SaaS companies. So maybe if you just got let go at Salesforce for engineering process, you take your knowledge and you go to one of your clients and you say, hey, that one widget that y'all really used, I'm going to go ahead and rebuild that for you. Hire me, and that'll be my job. So I think that just fastest growing is great. Fastest declining, I wanted to kind of put this up here. And again, this is a unique one for me because I think it's more the worldview that's driving this. This postal service clerks is going away. I don't know that is declining fast. I don't know if that's like new, like mail sorting. Maybe that's being automated somehow. Or is this like the actual drivers? I know that other countries have started like drone delivery. And I think that's kind of been one of the big things out of China is like they're now like delivering stuff by drones flying overhead. Bank tellers and related clerk, data entry clerk. So data entry clerks, that's very obviously AI, because now you can automate data entry. You just have to scan things and like it's all autonomous. And I'm flying through these. Sid, do you have any comments?
So general thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know how my general thoughts are. I just know how people are going to receive this data if they're scared. And again, I just want to emphasize, we can look into this data, we can look into all of these graphs and show people that there is a future for them and help them understand that. And we can help companies see how they're not going to need to utilize those roles or how things are going to look different. But like I said, it's doing business differently. It's funny, but this conversation gets me wanting to go in all different directions. So just trying to gather my thoughts. But my biggest thing is for companies to create this communication, to help people, just wrap their heads around what the future looks like moving forward for them with AI being involved. I mean, I took a little bit of notes in my handy dandy notebook, but I mean, it's just really important, especially as the industry is progressing in such a complex and fast way, in a way where it's spooking professionals at the speed that it's changing. It's really important for us to redefine what leadership programs look like. I think a lot of companies are behind on leadership programs, emphasizing people getting good with people when they are now responsible for people. And in addition to that, need to develop leadership programs for analytical problem solving on the job. Because again, you talked about like in fintech, how do we talk to AI for it to be able to utilize this data in the right way and have the right perspective? So how do we start training analytical thinking? How do we equip workers with technology literacy through on-site or virtual training sessions? I mean, when you think about adult learning, the best way for adults to learn is by doing. And by having everyone going, "Oh, AI is gonna be big. We know it is, but we don't know." get them using it. It's the same thing with like an iPhone or iPad. Think about on job sites, teaching superintendents how to move from sticky notes on their dashboard, tracking the progression of a project, to making them walk around on job sites with an iPad. You just got them using it. So get them jumping in and actually utilizing that. And then the third thing is foster a culture of resilience. So you got to normalize the feeling of being overwhelmed. CEOs are overwhelmed by this, and so are even, entry level college students. They're nervous about this. So how do you normalize feeling overwhelmed? This might be a terrible example, but an example I use, like, humanity's so simple. I remember I had to give a speech at my grandma's funeral. I wanted to, it was a big thing for me, but it was like, you're going to get choked up. It's a human thing. You're talking about a loved one that's no longer here. So rather than not do the speech or do the speech and potentially get caught up, I came up with an idea of, well, I just need a word that tells people what I need, and it helps get out, helps me click and break the pattern. So I told everyone before the speech, I said, it's going to be hard for me to get through, as y'all may know. So whenever it looks like I'm being choked up, if you could just help me out and scream pickles, that would be great. And so, yeah, there were 6 different times during the speech where I like just paused, ugly cried for a second, and the whole audience screamed pickles. And so in my own marriage, whenever there's a situation where I need my husband to get serious for a second, he hates kale. So I say, kale. So come up with a code word in your organization for people to say when they feel like they're being overwhelmed. They feel like they're dumb in the moment, for lack of a better word. But some people feel dumb with AI. If y'all could just come up with a word of, man, pickles. Like, it's just, and then to teach in the company to go, I know, man, pickles to me too, just something like that. So 3 different things that I mentioned: leadership programs being more based around analytical skill sets, equipping people with technology and just being exposed to it and creating space for that, and then coming up with a word to normalize the feeling of overwhelm and dumbfoundedness that we're all going to find ourselves in on this journey.
Absolutely. I love that.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you had that, because I think that had a completely different approach for me, because I'm like, let me see those data. Let me see that data point.
Yeah.
Like, where do I fit on that data point? Like,
that's what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm
is the
doing.
data going to answer? Is it going to answer your concerns that need for data is driving you to, Oh, and sorry to cut you off, but one last idea that I wanted to drive home. You were mentioning having people. I told you I had a lot with this instance. I'm just really passionate about this stuff. I think you have to be able to connect business as is and business as it's going to be. And like in HR, there's a function called the HR business partner. And really, that person's job is to be the liaison between the HR team and the incident or the employee. And they're just the liaison between that. And I think it would be really important for AI individuals to see themselves as an AI business partner. And the people who are knowledgeable, but they don't even have to be the people that are knowledgeable. You have these AI experts, and then you have the business people that need to use this information. You're just the one that has the patience and the curiosity to ask all the right questions. And so I just think like an AR business partner would be a new role that will come up. So while roles are closing down, new roles like that will open up. And then I'm going to put a pin in it because I want us to talk about this AI business partner idea a little bit more.
I think that that's a great idea. I've not heard that. So I definitely am interested in this AI business partner thing. So I think that that's a great wrap up on the jobs report. I've got one last spooky thing, because it's a spooky episode. So at the very beginning, or somewhere in the beginning, we talked about the AI agents getting hijacked. Last week, we talked about the fact that Bloomberg hadn't came out with their AI agent framework. And I talked about how the news report was really just to scare everybody about using their competitors, and they were going to be the heroes that came in and saved the day. Firmly believe that is the playbook that they're running. Well, 2 days ago, there was an Axios report that came out, and I've pulled a few quotes from that report, and they basically talked about the fact that OpenAI, there's a lot of excitement that is around one company, and it's probably OpenAI. And this is how, again, companies that use the market, like the playbook, um, like like OpenAI uses all the playbook from all the marketing, all the stuff. So there's always a reason that they're doing a bunch of stuff. A lot of excitement supposedly leaking out of a leading research level about a breakthrough that unleashes PhD-level super agents to do complex human tasks. That the CEO of Sam Altman, the connection that Axios had, was that the CEO was traveling to the White House to have a scheduled closed-door briefing to the U.S. government officials in Washington, D.C. Between the lines, they said a super agent breakthrough could push generative AI from fun, cool, aspirational tool to true replacement of human workers. Our sources in the U.S. government, so they're not using technical sources, they're using sources in the U.S. government. And leading AI companies tell us in recent months, the leading companies have been exceeding projections in AI advancements. And that is why you're seeing all these CEOs coming out and being like, we probably don't need this stuff anymore because we're just going to automate it with AI agents. I saw this, and I was just so excited because I feel like it's like my conspiracy theory that like we should timestamp that previous episode. So like it was last Sunday, that's the Sunday before. OpenAI is hiding like a full model. Like they're waiting. Yeah. They're setting the scene for GPT-5, and they're gonna launch it in like hey, we're launching O3 and GPT-5, and it's going to like they needed to brief the White House because it's gonna be that crazy. That's what genuinely. That's how I feel is happening.
Like, what do you think that crazy looks like? What do you think that looks like?
Man, I have a hard time.
See if you can predict some shit. Let's see if you can predict some stuff. On January 21st, 2025, Josh Giles thought that one of the possibilities of January 30th that they were going to present is.
Man, I have a hard time conceptualizing the best use cases for 4.0 and 0.1 Pro, right? Like Pro is actually something that is unlike most of the models that I've ever interacted with. Like you need to do a lot of front end management, and the results that you get is phenomenal, and it can handle like 500 pages of context, right? Like doing correct context in Pro is very difficult to do. So to think that there's a model that's better at reasoning, because the reason that Pro is so difficult to control is that you've got to kind of outline its reasoning because it'll just take shortcuts, and you need to make sure that it doesn't take those shortcuts. And I use 4.0 to prompt Pro, and then I use Pro's prompt to then like be executed by 4.0 because 4.0 is faster at writing. 0.1 Pro is better at reasoning, and I can get an outline that is like it's like the combination of the two is just like the perfect equilibrium between everything. And I'm still struggling to figure out how to use Pro the way that I think that they designed it to, because they've been. So typically when they release any type of model, they will release like notes to developers on how to use said model. Like they have like developer days that like they give APIs to. They haven't given a developer day for Pro yet. They haven't given they haven't given people that are like used to getting like all this documentation on how to use a foundation model any of the information. They've just been like, hey, go use it. It's $200 a month. Go figure out how to use it. And so there's not even really been very good tutorials out there on using it. But the combination between whatever ChatGPT-5 and O3, it's very difficult for me to even comprehend what that means.
And then to have to meet with the White House privately.
Yeah. So there has been some news today that came out at 5 o'clock. There was a agreement between SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle So you tell JD to watch SoftBank and Oracle stocks tomorrow. They just announced that they are investing $500 billion. That's a billion with a B, $500 billion, $500 billion into infrastructure tied to artificial intelligence by partnership between OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank. And this was announced by Trump as like his one of the things that he's going to be like investing his time and energy into a new entity that's like called Stargate. And this just has like the like Oppenheimer type of like secret companies coming together like with the best of the best to like figure out. I'm not sure if I would put SoftBank and Oracle and OpenAI as like my top thing, but the fact that the government is getting involved in announcing these types of partnerships and that there's $500 billion being invested into infrastructure.
My gosh, I can't wait to tell JD. I'm just writing all of this down in my little journal.
Yeah, and a lot of that is actually development that's happening in Texas. So you Texas people, construction, get on those data centers because there's a lot of money just being thrown at this. But closed door meetings with the government to talk about PhD-level agents out in the world. And
Jeez.
I'm excited for them to tell me how I should use them. You asked me a question that I didn't get to have ChatGPT be a thought partner with me on yet.
Well, I'm excited. Let them partner up with you, and I'd be interested to hear what you have to say moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Cydney, what do you say we go ahead and wrap it up? I think that was a great episode. What do you think?
I think so too. JD's ready to walk down the street of Cardiff with the waves in the background to go to Fish 101 and get some fresh oysters and fish sandwich. So,
oh man, you guys being trapped in California, that's just
I know. Miserable, you know?
Well, thanks community for following along. We'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you. I'll see you next week.